How are you, horror lovers? Today we travel to Mexico to bring you the legend, the Street of the Lost Child. It was the year 1659, and Mr. Adrian de Villacaña, a rich and powerful man, traveled from Europe to America with his little son Lauro, after the death of his wife. When he arrived in Nueva España, what we now know as Mexico, he bought a large house and hired several servants. After a year, Mr. Villacaña was diagnosed with a rare but serious illness. But what scared him was not death, but leaving his son completely alone. So he decided to find a new wife as soon as possible. Many women presented themselves to Mr. Adrian, but none managed to impress him until he met Mrs. Elvira. The man fell in love with her, and since he knew he had little time, he decided to ask her to marry him 3 days after meeting her. The woman quickly went to live with them. However, the boy didn't feel comfortable with her. He asked his father to throw that woman out of the house, warning him that she was bad. But the man, believing that it was still difficult for the little boy to accept someone taking the role of his mother, encouraged him to get to know her better. Months passed, and the situation with Elvira and Lauro didn't improve. They argued all the time. The stay in the house became unbearable with the screaming, until finally one day everything was filled with silence. Something had happened. The boy had disappeared. It was night when the servants told Mr. Adrian that they couldn't find the little boy. Villacaña told his wife that their son was missing. However, the woman barely turned to look at him, replying in a despotic and rude manner that she didn't care. Don Adrian was horrified, but at that moment the most important thing was to find the little boy. So without wasting time, he organized a search group. They all went out with torches at night, desperately shouting the child's name. Weeks passed and Lauro didn't appear. The man was more distressed every day. However, his wife acted as if nothing had happened, walking through the streets with her expensive dresses and with a perverse smile. That same afternoon, the man began to feel much worse when the expected tragedy occurred. Mr. Adrian died without having found his little one. From then on, Mrs. Elvira remained the sole heir to all his wealth. However, no one loved her. Everyone blamed her for the tragedies that had happened in her house. No one went to her parties or visited her, which caused Elvira to fall into madness. The years went by until one day, while one of her maids brought her breakfast, Elvira began to yell at her that she hadn't killed the child. Seconds later, after a horrible fit of madness, the lady threw herself out the window. At that moment, a key fell to the floor. The maid grabbed it, and together with her coworkers, they went one by one through all the furniture in the house to see where that key was from. Suddenly, a door that had always been closed opened by itself, and immediately a horrible plague invaded the environment. Inside there was a trunk. They went over and tried the key. The object split open and the servants cried out in terror. Inside was little Lauro with his hands tied and his mouth covered with one of Mrs. Elvira's handkerchiefs. From then on, no one wanted to enter that place, and the street was nicknamed the Street of the Lost Child.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it. And if you want to see more horror videos, subscribe to our channel.